Hello guys, this is Cryptex. Please let me know in the chat if my sound is good or not. Let me see who's here. Analyset. I know you have difficulty pronouncing shit, but it's actually spelled shit. Yes, I know. To me, it's hard to make the difference between shit and shit. It's my vocal structure, Spanish structure, so sorry for that. So today we're gonna talk about the book of the murder sheet. It's gonna be the part one tonight. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, so we're gonna need more than one show to pass through all the stuff in that book. Let me say hello to you guys here in the chat. Sweet dude Shibi, how are you, sweet dude? Thank you for being here. Tammy Salomon. We have Analyset, of course, one of the usual suspects. Oh, Mar, it's in the house. How are you, Mar? Mar, you have to use your range today. Last show, there were a lot of trolls, and you were very kind with the trolls. Today, no trolls allowed. Peggy O. If it looks like a duck, exactly. Pertinent. Oh my god, I'm so blind. I think I have to go to take my glasses, guys. I'm not able to see shit tonight. I cannot read the comments. Freak. Oh, Joshua is here. How are you, Joshua? I hope everything is well from your side too. So let's start. We're gonna talk about the. How are you, Luis? Luis is here too. And Jamie is here. So we have a good crew tonight. Nice. So we're gonna talk about the book from the murder sheet about the case. The book is like an attempt to clean the image of law enforcement. It's something that was expected, of course. We know that the murder sheet is like the media weapon of Indiana State Police. So it was kind of expected. But these guys, they really think that we are stupid, that we were born yesterday. So let's go like step by step. Just to say, the first thing you're gonna find in that book is that the introduction is made by the superintendent Doug Carter. So since the beginning, you know that the book is really biased. So don't expect to have some type of equilibrium or balance in that book. Impossible. So since the first page, we know what is this book about. They talk about how the murder sheet, they had access to the transcript of Keegan Klein. Remember the first interview or the first interrogation that was released by the murder sheet about Keegan Klein? And they say that that was caused by a clerical error. So of course, it wasn't a clerical error. No one is gonna buy that. They had access. They had direct contact with law enforcement. So having access to that confidential information was not because there was a clerical error. Obviously, it's not. These guys, they think we are stupid. And when we think about the clerical error, it's suspicious that the same exact wording they used to explain how they were able to obtain that transcript is the same wording that was used by Indiana State Police to explain the Dan Doolin lost tip narrative, a clerical error. So it's kind of suspicious. There's a direct connection between the murder sheet and the Indiana State Police, of course. So this is the first part of the book. They telling us that we are stupid. So don't buy the book. Just try to find it in the black market, as I did, thanks to my good friends in X. So continuing with the book, they say that they were victims because they didn't have the privilege of having press passes. So can you believe that? So poor guys, they didn't have press passes to enter to the courtroom, so they had to do the line as the rest of the planet had to do it. So poor guys, they didn't have that privilege, right? So that's the beginning. All right. I'm gonna be a little bit random here. When they talk about Andrew Baldwin, they say that he was known to be a bit of a sloppy dresser, like a cartoon character from the Flintstones. This is the most ironic comment I ever seen. So imagine Kevin and Amy, I don't even remember her name, talking about other people, about the way other people dress in a sloppy way. This is just stupid. Anyways, let's continue here, guys. I'm gonna come back to the chat from time to time, right? So they talk about the sleepover, the girls spending part of the evening hanging out with Libby's older sister. So in that sleepover, the day before of the murders, Kelsey was there, of course. Nothing to see here, or maybe yes. They tried to clean the image of Derek. They passed too fast in the aspect of the drug situation surrounding that family. They just said that there's nothing to see there. That how can you dare to ask about drugs in this case? That this is nothing related to the crime. So they cover that angle like in one paragraph. The book has like 400 pages, and they don't cover anything related to the drugs. When they talk about Derek German and the parties and the whole drug situation, they don't care about that. Of course, that was expected, right? We know the part where they say that Derek, he made breakfast to the girls, banana pancakes. In the autopsy report, we don't know anything about that, and we know that that is a very important element to do the determination of the time of the death. So I don't know if that's fabulous, let's say, but apparently they had banana pancakes for breakfast, but that information was not part of the autopsy report. So, and they don't talk about that at all. Okay. Sorry for when they talk about, I have problem with my mouse here, guys. Sorry for that. Shit. Give me 1 second. Sorry for the lapsus here, but my mouse is acting weird, and I'm kind of blind. Man, just it's not working. Sorry. Okay, have to do. I have to use my keyboard. Sorry for that. I have problems here. Okay, maybe here I have it. You give me 1 second, guys. Okay, when they talk about Anthony Shots and about Keegan Klein, there's a paragraph where they say that Anthony Shots was requesting nude pictures to Libby, and they called that the exact wording is risky pictures. And they say, but of course, she declined to send those risky pictures to Anthony Shots. Again, every single paragraph you see here, you can see that there's an attempt to protect the family, and that there is an attempt to clean the image of law enforcement. So weird. Trying to go here. Sorry, guys, my mouse is working not so good, and I'm kind of blind. I think I have to take my glasses in a couple of minutes because I'm not seeing shit. Okay. They say that in the video that we know, the 43 seconds video that was released recently, Abby, she says, is he right here? So this is like a fact for the murder sheet. Abby saying, is he right here? And also saying, don't leave me up here. So I really don't think that those sentences are a fact, but they don't even say that this is what we believe it was said by Abby, or this is most probably what Abby said. No, she just put that like as a fact there, and I don't like it because we know that that audio is not really clear at all. So again, according to murder sheet, the wording is used by Abby is he right here and don't leave me up here. Could be some type of attempt to show that Abby was scared, which again is not a fact in my opinion. He said that they say that British guy said something about a gun to Abby, and they put as a fact that British guy he held a gun. Again, speculation. In my case, I hear Libby saying that be a gun, but I know that it doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that's the correct sentence she was using, but the murder sheet, they put that like a fact. That British guy, that Libby, she said something about a gun to Abby, and that British guy, he held a gun. So continuing here with some paragraphs, I'm so blind. When Kelsey was at the police station, she was looking into the different social media accounts that Libby was communicating with online, and they say that Kelsey she communicated with Anthony Shots at that time. So this is something that we already knew, but I think is important. They don't explain how Kelsey had access to the password of Libby. So that's interesting. And we know that Kelsey, she was communicating that day with Anthony Shots, trying to get some information about the disappearance of the girls. So It's interesting that Kelsey, she had access to Libby's passwords. Give me 1 second here, guys. When they talk about the searchers that were crossing the creek on the 14th, they say that the level of the water was waist deep water. So there's a lot of discussion here in this community. A lot of people say that the level of the water was almost nothing. Other people say it was very significant. In my opinion, I think it was very significant. And they say here that the level was waist deep water. So if that's true, the level of the water was significant, and we can understand that that was not something easy for the killer in terms of crossing the creek with the girls. So that was something interesting I found in the book. They talk about Pat Brown. That whole part is really interesting. The part where Pat Brown found the girls, because that was also something that was never clear 100% to me, if the one who found the girls was Pat Brown or another searcher. If I recall properly, during the process, it was like something simultaneous. But in the book, it's like they reinforce the idea or the information that the actual person that found the bodies was Pat Brown, that he thought that there were mannequins, but of course they were the girls. They try to over-explain some things that you don't need to be explained. For example, when they talk about the state of the bodies of Libby and Abby, they say that there was no, how can you say, degradation of the bodies. There were no presence of insects or insects bites. There were no signs of predation from coyotes. And they say this is not surprising for February in Indiana. To me, this is like an over explanation. Why are they explaining that? It's like they don't want people asking about the possibility of the girls being moved from that area, or that the girls were not moved at one point. Let's say if the girls were abducted and the day after they were brought to the crime scene and they were killed there, that would explain why there's no signs of insect bites or predation from coyotes, etc. I'm not saying that is the situation here. I'm not saying that, but when I read the book, it's like they are trying to explain you that, and I don't need that explanation, because when I see that explanation, it's like they are anticipating that the reader is going to ask that question, were the girls abducted or not? So that's like a strategy to put some ideas in the mind of the reader. Like don't try to distract yourself thinking about an abduction. The girls were killed right away, right there. So I don't know. And during a lot of paragraphs, I feel that they are over-explaining stuff that is not necessary to be over-explained. Okay. they say that again, let me, guys, I have to go for my glasses. I cannot see anything here. Sorry, give me 1 second. My God, I'm so old. Oh shit, now I can read properly. I'm old, guys. Sorry for that. Let me go to the chat for a while here, guys, before continuing with my points. I hope I'm not talking alone like the other time. Give me 1 second here, guys, because I don't want to be too late in the chat. Okay. Wow, it's a lot of comments. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Okay. There we go. So Hiawatha is here. How are you, Hiawatha? Happy to have you here. I can see that you're having fun in the chat. Thank you, Linda's Looking Miller. Happy to have you here as usual. Okay, let me just scroll down. Addicted co-conspirator. Happy to have you here. Fishy, welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Cryptex land. I'm just gonna see if you have some comments so far. Okay, Annalise, clerical error sounds better than cover up. Come on, it's so obvious that first of all, it was not a clerical error obtaining that transcript from the Keegan Klein interrogation, let's say, and it's not a coincidence that they call that mistake a clerical error, and after they call the Dan Doolin's error a clerical error as well. So there's a narrative being pushed. They're using the same wording. So that comes from the same people. It's not a coincidence at all. Analyset. Apparently, only major press were awarded passes, but lots of independent journalists attend and reported. Yeah, poor guys. The murder sheet, they have to make the line. They didn't have the privilege to enter to the courtroom because they are so important. So how can you explain that? My God. They are the biggest shields of the year. Oh, yeah. Well, there's another one who is not so far, or maybe worse, but yeah, they're in the same level. The Flintstones. How can you explain that Kevin and that girl are talking shit about the way the other people dress? Seriously, this is just, come on, for real. It's like if I make fun of some Latino guy because he speaks English with a Latino accent. Really? They look like they don't shower and wake up in their crumpled clothes. I'm pretty sure that Andy Baldwin, he take the shower. He looks really clean. So for those people say those type of stupidities, really. I will on being a dictionary and an asshole this afternoon, not Holman level asshole. Tatiana is here. How are you, Tatiana? I cannot handle the chat. This book is trash. Yeah, exactly. It's poorly written. I was not expected to have like a book written by Garcia Marquez or by Foucault or by one of those great writers, Shakespeare. I was not expecting that, but it's poorly written. It's poorly written. Is of course it's written for the masses. I'm not saying that we are super smart and we are not part of the masses. We are, but I was expecting I don't know, a level of something better. You know what I mean? A big part of the book is a transcript of the interview with Richard Allen. So this is normal. At the same time, yeah, because they need to present that information, but I don't know. I was expecting something better in terms of the writing of the book. Nobody would trust a pet with them. Yeah, I agree. Fishy. Did they talk about why they have such an unstable bookcase? That is gonna be part of the second show, Fishy. We're gonna talk about that in the next show. Analyzet, drugs is a small subject. Allegedly, an issue was a tanker full of anhydrous. Good point. In my opinion, drugs are the elephant in the room. I'm not discarding drugs, but to me, the elephant in the room is an actual a real elephant. Is Keegan Klein, you know that, and this is like not a sarcastic sentence, you know. Keegan Klein is the elephant in the room. You understand my point, right? Cryptex 0.5 stars out of 5. If you are a pro-prosecution person, you're gonna give 10 out of 5. You're gonna give 10 stars out of 5. If you are a normal person, you're gonna give maybe 1.5 because it's entertaining. I'm not saying it's boring. It's not boring, but it's very biased. It's very biased, and they think you're stupid. They really think you're stupid. So, you know what I mean? Your light is flashing. My light, yeah, I know. I call those things dirty pictures. That used to mean something when I was young. Yeah, and they don't explain anything. They just said that Anthony Schultz was asking for, as you call it, dirty pictures to Libby, but of course she didn't send any dirty picture to Anthony Schultz or to Keegan Klein. And they don't support those comments or that information. And we know, again, that Keegan Klein was sending money to Libby. So he was sending money and he was not receiving anything in return. I just want to understand what's happening here. I'm not, if that happened, I'm not blaming the girls, of course, not. And they are the victims here, but these people, they think we are stupid. That's the problem. Shay Watson. Hey, Shay, how are you, Shay? Shay is awesome. We have to talk about your case, Shay, for sure. Okay, let me continue here. Jamie, There's no evidence confirming nor denying what was exchanging between Kelsey, Libby, Abby, their other friends, and the Anthony Shots account. Exactly. That was my point. 100%. And there was money being transferred to Libby. So don't tell me that Keegan Klein was sending money just because he's an angel and he wanted to give some cash to Libby. He was expect something in exchange. So just bad. Just the way they clean the image of law enforcement, the way they protect the family is just not the proper way. You know, they pretend to be journalists and they are not, or they are, but they are bad journalists. Anyways, analyze it. The state has to prove there is more to the 43 seconds video because, in my opinion, the video doesn't necessarily show a crime happening, of course. And I'm not saying that I'm that naive to pretend that Bridge Guy is not involved. Of course, if he was filmed by Libby, and he was one of the last people communicating with the girls, this guy is likely involved, but that is not proof. That is not proof. What proves that video that there was a guy walking on the bridge? That's the only thing. There's no other proof besides that. Let me continue here. Iwata, that book is law enforcement narrative with some word salad thrown, in my opinion. 100%. We know that the murder sheet, they are the media weapon of law enforcement. And the other time I was being maybe too hard in that town, but when I was saying that Delphi is like Twin Peaks, Delphi is like Twin Peaks. It's like surreal. It's unreal what happened there. Because the nature of the crime is, remember the crime in Twin Peaks? Something similar. But the characters, the people, the YouTubers, you have creepy YouTubers from Delphi, creepy. You have a creepy superintendent, Doc Carter, the theatrics, the dramatic way. It's play Twin Peaks, and you're gonna see Doc Carter. Don't tell me it's not, because it's like that. And weird people, weird town, weird police officers, creepy YouTubers. And I know that the murder sheet, they are not from Delphi, but they are in the Delphi's scenario. And they are like the perfect podcasters for a Twin Peaks movie, right? Weird people, I don't know. Anyways, continuing here. And I said, give the authors a break. Maybe they used a spirit box to hear stuff. But I think they did, because we know that the audio experts, they say that it's impossible to determine what was said in that video, other than guys down the hill. But they knew exactly what were the sentences pronounced or said by the girls. Spirit boxes. I'm gonna scroll down to continue with my notes. Did they use Apple Find My Phone? Good question. Analyze it. Anthony Grino filmed a couple girls of the same height crossing the creek. allegedly around the same time of the year. There's a narrow channel by the North Bank that was knee deep on these short girls. Yeah, good point. An addicted co-conspirator. At that age, there were no cell phones for me and my sister. I just assumed her password would be impenetrable and mine porous. Yeah, don't tell me that you give your password to your sister or to your brother or to your mother. Come on. Maybe to Abby, because actually, uh, I don't remember if it was in the book or somewhere else, but the thing is that Libby, she had the password of her cell phone, but Abby, she was able to enter into the cell phone with his with her fingerprint. So I think that Abby, she had access to Libby's phone, and maybe Abby was communicating also with Anthony Schultz because of that. I don't know. I don't remember exactly where did I read that information. Maybe it was in the book, but and maybe you can correct me, guys, in the chat. But yeah, Libby, of course, she had the password, but Abby, she had access to the cell phone by using her fingerprint. There is mixed messages on that. Law enforcement says it was on, but family always said it was off. You're talking about the Apple Find My Apple application. They say that Becky, she called the cell phone service company asking for help to locate Libby's cell phone, but they said we cannot do that. The only way we can do that is using the Find My Apple application. And Becky said, but the cell phone is with Libby, so they couldn't use that to find the cell phone because that's the story, and it's in the book also. And I said, Pat Brown's testimony at trial indicates he was the first to identify the scene. Yeah, but I remember also something about some searcher that found the girls like at the same time. But yeah, I think it's a fact that it was Pat Brown. And Pat Brown, he went to ask Ron Logan if he knew something about the girls, if he saw the girls, and of course Ron Logan told him that no. As if Abby and Libby were there for 19 hours without being seen. It's absurd to think that, in my opinion. Mino Dino, how are you? Cryptex, your accent on the word coyote is beyond charming. Thank you for that. And said, people who claim to be local and to have been on the search said dense fog arose at the sundown on the 13th and didn't leave enough for people to see till about noon the 14th. Twin Peaks, you see? Imagine Twin Peaks, the fog preventing everyone to observe stuff that night. The perfect simile to Twin Peaks again. Cryptex peeps the manipulation. And I said, unlikely coyotes would have done anything unless they had a regular run through that area. Yeah, but it was something that it was unnecessary. You know what I mean? It was unnecessary. It's like if you say there were no people from Texas killing the girls that night. So why do you say that? What is the need to say stuff like that? You don't say that. You know what I mean? My point is that it's unnecessary information. And because of that, in my opinion, there's something behind. There's a narrative being pushed. That's my point. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's weird to say that. It's like if I say, Mar, she was not there helping Elvis Fields. It's like, why would I say something like that? It's right, but it's weird. So what is behind that? You know what I mean? That was my point. Written for someone who doesn't know anything about the case. By the way, give me 1 second, guys. As an act of arrogance. No, forget about that. Forget about that. Mino Dino. Okay. Hi, Jamie. Liars always over-explain. Exactly. Over-explanation is weird. You don't like. Remember when? And I know that we have differences here in that aspect, but one of the confessions that was made by Richard Allen is that I did that by myself, alone. No one was with me. It's extra information that you don't have to say. You don't say that. You don't talk like that. So to me, it's like the opposite. There was someone else there. Anyways, that was my point. Minodino. Coyotes are very active in February. Yeah. I'm perfect. Why? I'm not at all. The actual trail complex is about the same size as my ranch. Ron Logan's property is the size of the high field in front of my house. Yeah, because of my, yeah, I'm so blind, guys. I'm old, for real. I always felt they were cornered in from behind, led downhill to car, taken elsewhere, brought back around 4 a.m. through cemetery. I think this is not a crazy idea at all. It's not a crazy idea. It's not a crazy hypothesis. Fishy is, I don't know what is this link, but if Fishy puts a link here, go to the link. You are carbon dated. Oh my God. That's funny, Shay. Let me scroll down and just scroll down a couple of comments and I'm gonna come back to my notes. Yeah, no way they were not seen. Yeah, Dandulin having amnesia for 5 years. And the way they explain the lost tip narrative, we're gonna go there. A clerical error. That's part of my notes here, but this is just sad. Analyzed. A big problem with girls being taken away is the FBI written affidavit to search Ron Logan stated clearly the violence happened at the crime scene due to amount of blood in the ground. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that there was no abduction. You can abduct the girls. They're gonna stay alive during a couple of hours, and then you come back with the girls to that area and you kill the girls there, or at least one of them. So it doesn't mean that they were not killed there. What I mean is that, in my opinion, there is the possibility that they were abducted They were brought to that area for some reason, and then something happened and they were killed there. Potential, you know? Oh, Rebecca is here. Hello, Rebecca. Digital. Yeah, me. I'm gonna just talk about a couple of things about the book tonight, but we have to do a second show because there's a lot of stuff. Inspector Cathy Shank is more useful than all of Unified Command. Yeah, exactly. She was a superhero, right? No one's gonna buy that. It just shows all the activity that happens after an animal dies. Oh man. Muddy sheets are important. They are the state's mouthpiece. Careful onion will put your name in the next book. Yeah. I don't want to be part of that circle for real. Exactly. Great point, Jamie. For sure, Libby was killed there. Abby, I'm not that sure. I wouldn't say that is a fact necessarily. Likely, yes, but the book is garbage. Yeah, I agree with you. Did Shank tell Keegan Klein to clean up his cell phone data? The real elephant is Keegan Klein. Yeah, exactly. So let me come back to my notes, guys, and I'm gonna come back to the chat. So at one point they say this crime was brutal. A killer had slaughtered two children and left them to grow cold in the woods. Again, like pushing the narrative that everything happened at that time and that the girls were there at the crime scene area until the next day, like saying, telling the reader to not to talk about an abduction. They don't say that, but that's the way they write the paragraphs to play with your mind. If you are stupid, but we are not, right? So you can see that they play that game the whole book. Like, I'm not saying this, but it's there in a bad way because they try to influence your thinking, but we can read between the lines very easily, right? They talk about the way the detectives they found the cartridge, the unspent round that they were using like a flashlight, and then the cartridge, the unspent round, was visible at that point through the leaves between the two girls. So, okay, maybe that was the case. I'm not saying that everything that they are saying is false or they are misleading in every single aspect, but yeah, that's the way they explain the way the cartridge was found. Having problems again with my computer. Oh, okay. Coming back here. And again, pushing or telling information that it feels like over explicative, over explaining stuff. They say, like, in a very solid way, there was no chance that the bullet come from one of the officers, from one of the three crime scene investigators. No one in the law enforcement, no one in law enforcement, no one used that type of ammunition. The crime scene investigator, he never carried his gun to the crime scenes. It's like too much. Sometimes when I read that, it's like, hey, they're trying to push that narrative for some reason. Like, if they say that like in one sentence, in one line, okay, fine. But they have to reinforce that idea over and over and over and over that it feels weird. I'm not saying they planted the bullet, but it could come from another person. Unlikely, let's say. Okay, unlikely, but what they have the need to explain that multiple times. That's what it bothers me in that book. Like they try to over explain things that you don't need that over explanation. You know what I mean? Anyways, they say that there was no blood on the sticks. Are you serious? And remember that during the process, the law enforcement, the crime scene investigators, one of them, he said, we didn't collect the sticks because there were items of no evidentiary value, which is the most stupid idea ever. Sticks that were in contact, not only with the bodies, but with the injuries of the bodies. And you didn't collect that because they were items of no evidentiary value. Remember that? And here in the book, they say that there was no blood on the sticks. The sticks were placed they were in direct contact with the injuries. How is that possible that there was no blood on the sticks? This is really unlikely. This is a myth, a legend that no one is gonna buy. No one is gonna buy that. So they were incompetent. They didn't collect the sticks. For sure, there was a lot of information there, or at least they didn't collect the sticks at the right moment. And those guys, the murder sheet, they are cleaning again the image of those crime scene technicians, saying that there was no blood on the sticks, which is something that is insane. It's impossible. That makes me, again, this is the book of the over-explanation. The over-explanation. And over-explanation is telling you the opposite. So when they talk about Derrick German, they say that when police arrested Derrick German in 2014, he didn't snitch out his associates. Why do you have the need to tell me that? Because we know that most probably Derrick German was snitching on other people, and that could be a motive for this crime. But they have to say, no. Derrick, he's not a snitch. He was in prison before and he didn't snitch out his associates. You can see the pattern in this book. You can see that they are trying to lead you in some direction that it's fishy. It's really fishy. It's really weird. And I'm not here just to criticize, because I was expecting to have at least some parts of the book, like something interesting there. But the book is interesting. It's just that it's not believable, the narrative. You know what I mean? And it's just sad. It's just sad. It's a manipulation. That's why I call this streaming the art of manipulation, because that's what they are doing with this book, pushing the law enforcement narrative, but in a way that is so evident. They didn't even try to make it credible. You know what I mean? It's just bad. Okay. Again, there was no evidence that Derrick had reverted back to the drug world, cleaning the image of the family again. An interesting point here was that the coroner, the one who made the autopsy of the bodies of Libby and Abby, he thought that some marks in the mouth of the girls were generated by some type of duct tape, but he didn't find any adhesive residue that has been left behind. So he couldn't conclude that that mark came from a duct tape. And again, this is a way to push a narrative that the girls were not, that the killer or the killers, they didn't use some, what's the name of that item to, I forgot the name. Yeah, like the ligature device, let's say. It's not necessary to be a duct tape. You know what I mean? If he found some type of mark consistent with some type of duct tape, but he didn't find any residue, maybe there was another type of material, something that is not adhesive. You know what I mean? Maybe some type of fabric or something like that. Again, some stuff here looks fishy. I'm not saying that it's a lie, but we can read between the lines again. And I'm not challenging every single point here because I want to be smart. That is not the point. It's just that when I read that, I feel that they are trying to be smart. You know? Anyways. They say that the investigators, when they analyzed the video, they concluded that the girls were scared, that they heard a metallic click that sounded like a gun rocking, and we know that that was the material they needed to connect Bridge Guy with the crime, that a gun was part of that situation on the bridge. So I don't think anyone can hear a metallic click in that video, like 100% questionable, right? Information that we already knew, but they say that there were some items that were lost when we talk about the clothing of the girls, underpants from Libby, and a single sock. This is interesting again because we know that Keegan Klein, he had a fascination with socks. So just saying, a sock was missing, and in this type of crimes, we talk about trophies. And what if the sock was a trophy? So those items are very specific, you know. An underpant and a sock. It's not a shoe, you know. The killer, he didn't take a shoe with him. He didn't took a t-shirt, because that is not sexual related, you know. But the items that were missing were a sock and an underpant, something that, in my opinion, is sexually related for a pervert like the killer or the killers that committed this crime. So yeah, maybe the creek or the river, the clothes were, or that the soak and the underpants, maybe the river or the creek made disappear those items, but it's just fishy. I don't know. Again, it's weird to me. Sounds like a trophy. And again, Keegan Klein fascination with socks. I don't know. They say that when they talk about the hair that was found on Abby, the hair almost certainly belonged to one of Libby's close female relatives. That made sense, given that Abby was found wearing Libby's clothing. There was no investigative relevance here. This is really bad. How can you say that the hair, just because it belonged to Libby's family, is not relevant? This is the most stupid investigation ever, for real. There was no investigative relevance there. I know that it's easily explainable that the hair could be in Abby's hand for some reasonable explanation. But saying that there is no investigative relevance there is just bad. It's the same thing as the sticks. They didn't collect the sticks because there were no items of investigative relevance or evidentiary value, right? So yeah, they talk about the first time Dan Doolin talked to Richard Allen, and they write in that paragraph that Richard Allen arrived at 1:30 p.m. and he left at 3:30 p.m. We know that in that sheet, let's say, in that tip narrative, if we can call it like that, there were a lot of mistakes made by Dan Doolin. The name, I think it was Dan Doolin, the one who made the mistakes. The name of Richard Allen was wrongly written. Richard Allen Whiteman. And why do I think it was Dan Doolin and not Richard Allen, the one who made the mistake? Because Richard Allen, he didn't clear that tip narrative. He was not the one clearing that tip. So to me, the fact that then his name was wrongly written and the fact that the tip narrative or that tip was cleared by someone is connected. Is not a clerical error. It's something deeper. Those errors, if we can call it errors, were connected and most probably committed by the same person or persons. It's not something that is, you cannot buy that. So when people say, no, it was Richard Allen telling a wrong name to Dan Doolin to mislead the investigation because he's a smart killer and he was thinking, I'm going to give you the wrong name. No, Richard Allen, he didn't clear the tip. And this is, the correlation is there. The correlation is there. So, and in the same sense, how can we say that the time that is written in that tip narrative that was loaded to the Orion system, Richard Allen arriving at 1:30 and leaving at 3:30 p.m. is correct? Maybe Richard Allen, when he went 2 years or in 2022, to to be part of that interrogation with Holman and with Mullin and Liggett, and he gave a different timing. Maybe that was the timing he gave since the beginning, because to me it seems that everything that was written in that initial tip, original tip, was wrong. The Again, the name of the person who was giving the tip, or who communicated with Dandulin, the name was wrongly written. The tip was cleared. So it's like Dandulin was tired, was drunk, or something else, but everything was wrong there. So maybe the timing, the arrival timing, and the time of depart was also wrong. Maybe he was tired, or he was drunk, or he was drugged. I'm exaggerating, but it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? And they say, Dandulin, he forgot about the shift manager, about the CVS shift manager, who is Richard Allen. That was unfortunate. So that's the way they clean the behavior of Dandulin, saying that his actions were just unfortunate. He forgot. It's one sentence, guys. When they need to over-explain weird stuff, they do it like in long paragraphs, in long sentences, because they need you to think about that. And they need to push that narrative. But when they don't want you to ask questions, they pass like that. And that's the way he wrote that sentence. They wrote the murder sheet. Dandulin forgot about the CVS manager. That was unfortunate. Really, is that simple? It's just bad. It's bad. It's sad. It's just unacceptable. And those are the integer journalists here. Huh? So when they talk about the this is just, oh my God, seriously. It's just, I don't know if I want to laugh or if I want to cry. So they talk about the technological mishap regarding the material that was lost, the interviews that were recorded during the first 70 hours of the investigation. And then they had to go back and re-interview some people. And they talk about that oversight, another clerical error. And they say, no, it was a technological mishap. So they pass too fast when they talk about those mistakes. You know what I mean? It's just bad. Now, remember, one of my favorite subjects here is the Anthony Shots angle. You know that. When he was in Vegas, he played the Guys Down the Hill video like 6 times. And then Keegan Klein, he deleted his search history from February 10 to February 15. So everything he searched from February 10 to February 15, right the period where the murders happened, he deleted that information from his cell phone. He opened his Snapchat application. He logged under the name of Anthony Shots. He put together a few messages and he sent them to Libby, a girl he knew to be dead. Why was Keegan Klein sending messages to Libby if he already knew that she was dead? Explain that to me. It's not only that he deleted the whole search history from his cell phone. How can you explain that If he knew already that Libby was dead, why was he sending her messages? This is just crazy, you know. Everything related to Keegan Klein is just, to use the word of one of my critics, fascinating to me. It's fascinating. So Keegan Klein told investigators that he and his father, Tony Klein, were in Vegas the day of the murders. And we know that they departed Indiana after the killings. Why was Keegan lying to the investigators about that? We know that Keegan is a liar, but that's a fabricated alibi. You know what I mean? We were not here during the time of the murders. We were in Vegas, which is not true. So there's a lot of stuff. Actually, the part of the book related to Keegan Klein, it's interesting. There's an interesting information there that I'm not gonna say enjoyed, but I found that part of the book interesting. So about the iPhone that Keegan Klein was using to communicate with Libby. Remember that he hid that cell phone during the search warrant that law enforcement conducted at his property. And then, and that cell phone was the one he was using to communicate with Libby. Then he deleted the Snapchat application. He deleted the Instagram application. He deleted the Meet Me application. Then he re-downloaded those applications again, trying to hide the information that was in that phone. That was the phone he used to communicate with Libby. So he cleared his Safari browser history, website data, and after doing that shady, fishy stuff, he turned his phone to law enforcement. So he was trying to erase all traces of his contact with Libby. So when people say I have a fascination with Keegan, I have it. I accept. The guy was there. The guy is the mastermind of this crime. You cannot say that he was not involved in this crime. Just evident. You have to be blind to say he was not involved. You have to be blind. Anyways, they tried to portray the FBI agents like the bad guys in that unified command. There's one guy, his name is the Sergeant Fred Rogers from the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. And in the book, The Murder Sheet, they say this guy was obsessed with the Ron Logan angle. Like trying to say that the people that were in that unified command pursuing the Ron Logan's angle were just obsessed people that were not looking for the truth, you know. Again, it's like they try to direct the reader in some weird way here. So, of course, they are pushing the Indiana State Police narrative clearly. They say that Ron Logan was an exceptionally tall man. I don't think he's an exceptionally tall man. He's tall, but exceptionally. He's not a giant. He's a big guy. He's tall, but he's not exceptionally tall. something none of the witnesses who saw Bridge Guy had described. So they are pushing some angle here, trying to say, oh, Ron Logan is not the Bridge Guy because the witnesses, they didn't describe Bridge Guy as someone tall. But they don't say that the witnesses, they were not talking about someone short because that is not convenient for them, right? Because we know that Richard Allen is a short guy. So they use that explanation to try to tell you, forget about that. Bridge Guy is not Ron Logan because the witnesses, they didn't talk about someone being exceptionally tall. But we know that the witnesses, they didn't talk about someone being exceptionally short. So you cannot have it both ways, you know? So again, they talk shit about a lot of people in that book. They talk shit about Angela Sadlowski. They talk shit about Bob Mora. They talk shit about a lot of people, but they don't talk shit about the YouTubers that were working with law enforcement. Again, biased book. The book is not balanced at all. We know that there were YouTubers working with law enforcement, clearly pushing his narrative, their narrative, but they don't talk about that. And one of the persons they were talking about in that book was Julie Melvin, and they talk really bad about Julie. They portray Julie Melvin like a demon. So it's funny because you can see that these guys are just not serious at all. They talk about the conflict between Julie Melvin and the Becky's family, and they protect the Becky and Mike Patty, but they put dirt in Julie Melvin in a very sad way, let's say. It's just sad to read that. It's just sad. Anyways, they talk about Elvis Fields. I didn't know this. They say that it was Elvis who put the leaves and the sticks on the bodies. That was what Elvis Fields told to his sisters. I didn't remember that, and that's very interesting. I remember that he said that they put some horns on Abby's head because she was a troublemaker. The whole situation about Elvis spitting on the girls, but I don't remember that he was the one placing the sticks, according to his sister. And this is really interesting. I didn't know that. I don't know, guys, if you knew about that, but I didn't. And at the end, in some paragraph, they say, no, that family is just crazy. The sisters and Elvis Fields, something like that, in that sense. They cut that Elvis Fields theory like that, like saying that they say something like one of his sisters, she was taking some medication at the time. So that's a way to discard a theory. But we know that Richard Allen was also taking medication, that he suffers of anxiety, that he was under depression, and that is not important. So it's important when they talk about the family of Elvis Fields, but not when we talk about Richard Allen, or they use that. strategy to discard Elvis Field's involvement, but they don't use it in the same way when they talk about Richard Allen. So it's biased. I'm not saying you understand my point, guys. So also they talk about the Elvis Field saying, if my spit is found on Libby and Abby, but I can't explain its presence, would I still be in trouble? This is a sentence that I'm still trying to understand. How can explain the presence of the spit on the girls? I don't know. And regarding that confession, or that confession, they say that Murphy was annoyed and that he felt that Elvis Fields was playing with him. I really want to say, well, again, they passed too fast in that sentence, in that angle. Sorry. Yeah, there were problems with the sister and their stories. Murphy saw bottles of pills prescribed for psychiatric issues in one of their homes. Again, trying to say that the sisters of Elvis Fields were crazy. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna come back to the chat, guys, because I'm sure I'm very late here. And I said, what did anyone do about Keegan Klein asking Levy for dirty pictures? Report him, block him, nothing? Yeah, good point. Hey, how are you, Diane? I'm super tonight. What about you? Happy to have you here. Let me. Of course. To me, this is the holy grail of the case, the Dropbox. To me, the solution and the explanation, the answers of this crime are there. 100%. I agree 100% with you. Sorry. I want to believe that Libby planned to report Keegan Klein. There were vague rumors in the beginning that she was to meet with police on Wednesday, 2 days after the crime. I don't know, but who knows? As you say, rumors. Is there proof that Libby received money? I would say yes. When I connect the testimony of one of the victims of Keegan Klein in a separate process, not in the Delphi Murders process, that was his modus operandi. He was intending to send, or the way he acted was, he promised presents to the girls, Victoria's Secret clothing, shoes, and perfumes. And the catfishing scenario there was, I'm going to send you those items, but I need your address to be able to deliver the presents, the gifts. So that's one thing. And the other thing that the victim said is that he was sending her money, $10 via the Cash App application to buy food for herself. So the Cash App application is not only in the transcript of that victim, but we know that in the transcript of Keegan Klein, it is stated that law enforcement, they have the money, the Anthony Schott's money account going to Libby. So to me, that's a fact. He was sending money to Libby. Clearly. Dirty sock. Yep. Analyzet. There were various rumors, and the press initially dubbed the crime the Snapchat murders. Then someone objected, and that was dropped. Yeah, I imagine someone from Snapchat for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. Shay Watson. Exactly how long had Anthony Schultz and Libby been talking? Do they have those conversations, or was it all before the threat? Well, Keegan Klein, he created the Anthony Schultz account in, I think it was in December 2016, and he communicated with Libby the day of the murder. So, let's say more than 2 months, in my opinion. But days before the day of the murders, for sure, and the same day of the murders, he communicated to Libby, according to the testimony of David Vido in the pre-hearing trial. It was one of the, it was not even a question for, well, it was a question from Nick McClelland. He said to David Vido, it is true that Anthony Schultz was communicating to Libby the days prior to the murder? Vido said yes. And even the same day of the murders? And Vido said yes. So it's interesting that Nick McClelland, he wanted to have that information like stated in the process, that Keegan Klein was communicating to Libby the same day of the murders. And we know that he was looking for the address of the Marathon gas station the same day of the murders. And we know that he confessed to be in Delphi committing the crime with other people. So what about that? Boston Christian, hello Boston. Happy to have you here. As if a murderer would leave his image on an iPhone. Let me scroll down here, guys. Did they ever get the Anthony Schultz phone? That's the cell phone that Keegan Klein hid from law enforcement when they performed the search warrant in Peru. He hid the phone and then he deleted everything. And after deleting all the information, he gave back the phone to law enforcement. Twin Peaks started out so stupid. My husband and I never watched more than, oh, this is awesome. This is an awesome show. Come on. You have to watch it. Oh, Spooky. How are you, Spooky? Driving around Indiana, pointing at things and saying, that's Twin Peaks, one of my favorite pastimes. Yeah, Twin Peaks was just awesome. I love that show. I love it. Scrolling down here, guys. Maybe. What do you mean, maybe? What did I missed something here? Okay, okay. I missed something. Again, okay. I hope the FBI has phone data. Spooky. I'm late to this, so I'm wondering, has he discussed the passage on like the third page of the book, Esdras? I don't remember that. No. Peggy, there is an exhibit where it didn't look like she was set up with a child account. Sunflower, how are you? Why hasn't anyone used artificial intelligence of Doug Carter walking on charts of hot glass for hormone? Let me go down here, guys. V. Abby and Livy used fingerprint locks. So when the phone was tried to be unlocked and couldn't be, phone and girls must have been separated. Good point. Good point. Peggy, I'm trying to remember how it was in 2017, but I do know now if an account is set up as a child account, the permissions for Find My iPhone is defaulted as active. It doesn't look she was set up. But remember that Kelsey, she had access to the cell phone, so everything related to, I don't know, digital. But the phone was pinging every 15 minutes, so that means they could have located the phone, right? I mean, they said they rushed out at 2 a.m. because of pings. You pro Richard Allen folk really need to do serious fact checking and soul searching. Do you want to call and discuss about the case? Say Watson. But the news was out there after dark, and there were several people with flashlights in the background. No fog. Yeah, I don't know how the clothes were not found. The 13. This is weird, in my opinion. I would expect the clothes to be found that day. But anyways. Scrolling down. Troll alert. Yeah, Mar, use your wrench. Joshua, this is all very good information. What are you talking about, Joshua? Tell me, what information did you like so far? Digital. I heard Becky Patty filed injunctions to block her family plan phones from being searched. Why were the family phones not investigated? But remember that the day the girls were missing, Mike Patty, he went back home to look for all the devices, and he went after to the station of the law enforcement station, let's say, to try to find some information there. I don't know. I don't know if there were only the devices of Libby or the devices of the whole family. I don't know. I don't know about that digital. I'm ignorant in that sense. So you can tell me something about that. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird to say I committed the crimes alone. It's not the way you talk. It's like I'm drinking this whiskey alone. You don't talk like that. I'm doing this streaming alone. You don't talk like that. You understand my point? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Analyset. Coyotes are active all year. Mating starts late February, early March, and juveniles may leave the pack and find new territory. Exactly. Exactly. That's my point. It doesn't necessarily mean, Joshua, that they were all day and overnight. It's not. There's a possibility that they were moved, still alive, and then they were put back to the crime scene. Maybe Libby, for sure, Libby was killed at that area, but when? That's the thing. And I'm not sure about Abby. I don't think a status cleared equates to a clerical error. if anything, is negligence. It's more than negligence. It's more than that. Negligence is a very nice word for clearing that tape narrative. Maybe and maybe it was actually cleared, and then they needed to unclear that tape narrative. I don't know. If they erroneously put Whiteman as Rick's name, what did they have for his address exactly? And not only that, what about the rest of the information? The timing, the time Richard Allen arrived to the trails, the time he left. If Dan Dooling was making those mistakes, so maybe he was the one who didn't put the wrong timing, and not Richard Allen changing his story. Oh, someone doing a crime like that would take terrible risks returning to the area. More like if the victims were removed. That depends. Remember that the Ron Logan's bathroom was redecorated. You don't have to leave the area to go to China. You know what I mean? You have Ron Logan's house right there, so you can keep the girls from one day to the another day, just next to the crime scene. You know what I mean? So it's not a terrible risk. It's the opposite. Maybe it was the safest way for the killers to commit that kidnapping and that murder, because police and the searchers, they were not looking for dead people. So if they were abducted at Ron Logan's house, let's say, or Brad Weber's house, or another house close to the crime scene, it's not a terrible risk. Actually, it's safe. They keep the girls for a while until the search is over. Most of the searchers were sent home by law enforcement because it was dark and it was not safe. So at that point, they could take advantage of that moment. Okay, there's nobody here. Let's finish this. Something like that. So they were not leaving the area to go to another state. That's the point. I try to read every comment. I try. On the New York Times bestseller list? No. Maybe that's why they are looking. Maybe they are looking for a movie and to have the rights of that movie, and they're going to be rich forever. Maybe that's, I was thinking about that, really, for real. They know that book is going to be a bomb shell, let's say, and for sure that's going to be interesting for a filmmaker. Like the same what happened with the West Memphis 3. It's I don't discard that situation, for real. Yeah. At the risk of sounding macabre, Abby being so very pale might imply real effort exsanguination elsewhere to some degree. Yeah. It's consistent with your idea. Clerical error, lost interviews, untested DNA, blaming FBI for ineptitude of lost Marathon gas station video, no time of death, fucked up the timeline, kicking the FBI off, happens in every case, Jerry Holman. Yeah, and in the book they talk about the Marathon gas station situation, and they say that the ones who fucked up the that video um, was the FBI, but they say also that the FBI were blaming someone from Indiana State Police, and Doc Carter, he didn't like that, and he said, bye bye. He kicked out the FBI from the case because of that. But it seems that the FBI, they were blaming also someone from ISP. So it's fishy. It's fishy. Who was the one to blame there? Hmm. Let me scroll down a little bit here, guys. Oh, She Books is here. How are She Books? So fucking stupid. Yeah, the sticks not having blood on them. Come on. They really think we are stupid. For real. For real. I like this one. I lost it. Uh, yeah. Annalise said, the sticks obviously fell off the trees and created ruins. Exactly. I haven't read it, but it sounds like what they wrote, aside from law enforcement party line, about says more about them and what they found fascinating than the crime. Yeah. Peggy, there is a bunch of nothings in this case because they didn't investigate. I don't see how that's a mitigation factor. Digital. Was there only one CSI officer who was actually at the scene who testified? The blood spatter expert was not there. He only used photos. Well, there were three crime scene technicians, uh, but I don't know if it was only one who testified, but there were three of them. Tatiana, there was blood on the sticks, and it was Libby's. It is in the transcript, so everyone can check that. Yeah, of course there was blood. Of course. It's just fishy. How the fudge would they know if he rotted? She books. They found Libby's blood like 2 weeks later when they were finally collected. Imagine the results they could have gotten if they were collected that fucking day exactly. It's just a horrible, incompetent investigation for sure. Peggy, why are they going on a bunch of YouTubers to do interviews when all they did was talk shit about YouTubers? Yeah, exactly. Me scroll down, scrolling down. She books twigs and rocks being stepped on. Scrolling down. Tatiana. They claim there's no full male DNA profiles, insufficient for matching, but they could have tried to exclude other males and didn't. The only full male profile came back to an ISP employee, unnamed. Yeah, someone from the laboratory. Yeah, you're right. And Holman was kind of pissed when he found that the full DNA match came from law enforcement, from the one working in that lab. I agree. You're right. J Ray, how are you, J Ray? Do they talk about the bandana or the scarf? That's part of the next show. They talk about Julie Melvin being in the during the funeral and taking pictures, and some of those pictures were the girls' faces and the scarves, you know. So they were talking a lot of shit about Julie Melvin. Remember that Julie Melvin was trying to see if the killer was there, which I think is bright. It's great. So she was taking pictures to try to capture the people that was there in that funeral. It's a bright strategy. I don't think law enforcement they did that because they're stupid. So at least Julie, she has some brain. You know what I mean? Anyways, Chibi, look over Crypt's right shoulder. Who do you see? What do you mean? Digital, I'm tech challenged. Does the metadata prove the bridge guy video was recorded from Libby's phone on the 13th at the bridge? I tend to say that it's likely. I would say it's likely. But you are the digital one, so you tell us. I don't think there's anything suspicious about that. I don't think so. Alison shits. Wondering if the girls were even in the bridge. No, they were. They were, of course. We don't go there. Digital. I hijacked my son's YouTube account when I got obsessed with this case. He had to make himself a new account, and I didn't know how to change the name. Dirty Diana, happy Sunday to you too. Peggy, if they wrote down the wrong name, they probably wrote down the wrong time exactly. And they probably cleared the tip. So it was a series of mistakes. It's like a serial clerical error situation. Shay, which brings me back to my earlier question. If his name was incorrectly documented as white man, is that's a very good question. Shay. That's a great question. A great question. Me too. I want to know that. I don't know if that tip narrative is available. If that Dan Doolin's shit was published or not. But it's a great question, yeah. Thank you for repeating your question. For real. Yeah, the report is unreliable. It is. Hey guys, I have like 72 notes and I was in the number 36. So I'm gonna come back to the notes. Correct. So in one part, okay, they talk about Todd Click and Ferenczi, and they say that according to Todd Click and Greg Ferenczi, they thought or they were kind of convinced that guys and Down the Hill were said by two different people. And one of those people was possibly Elvis Fields referring to the girls as guys. And this is something that to me is very interesting, you know. Guys Down the Hill, and I think it was Annalise, the one who was talking about that. The phone is with Libby. It's in the hands of Libby. When Libby talks, it's hard to listen to her. It's not clear. It's very, very soft, her voice. But when bridge guy talks, it's super clear. It's guys down the hill, and he's far away from the phone. So that makes me think, what about two different people? One in the other side of the bridge, and the other one being a bridge guy. Anyways, they say that that was one of the theories of Todd Click and Greg Ferenczi, that guys down the hill were two different people talking. They talk about the sketches. So they say that the first sketch, the old bridge guy sketch, was the one behind that sketch was Sarah Carbog. According to Sarah Carbog description, that was the origin of the old bridge guy sketch. And this is interesting because according to Sarah Carbog, she passed very close to bridge guy. Like she said, like 3 feet, which is unlikely, but according to her, bridge guy was really close to her car. So she was able to see bridge guy clearly, let's say. And the second sketch was made by, or the origin is because of Betsy Blair, which is a total different guy, right? So law enforcement, they gave more credibility to the sketch of Sarah Korbog because she was closer to bridge guy when she saw him. That's why, according to the murder sheet, the old sketch was the one who was published, let's say, first. Let me see here. They talk about the press conference in 2019, and there's something interesting there when Doc Carter is he was talking about the shock. According to the murder sheet, Holman was like, "Why did you talk about that? What is that?" Like he was surprised. He didn't know about the shock. He learned about the shock while listening to Doc Carter. So the whole speech was like elaborated, let's say, and the shock was not part of that speech. And when Doc Carter was talking about the shock, Holman was like really surprised, and he talked to Carter about that. And Carter told him something about that. You have to read the book or to watch the movie about the shock, you know. So that was like interesting. Let me come back here. Okay, let me see my notes here. Okay, they talk about Keegan Klein looking for the Marathon gas station in Delphi the day of the murders, and that it's really crap that we don't have that video, because that could be like the confirmation that Keegan Klein was there the day of the murders. And we know that the FBI and the ISP, they were blaming each other about the disappearance of that video. Not the disappearance, but the destruction, the accidental destruction of that footage. There's an interesting paragraph here. They talk about the interrogation of Keegan Klein, and they mention that Keegan Klein, sometimes he was very calm, but just like that, he became very angry during the and profane during the interrogation. So it's like he's someone who snaps, you know. And people say that Keegan Klein is just he's not violent and he doesn't have history of violence, but this is an indication that he's not, you know. So, and when we do the connection with the Kyla story and his obsession with cutting throats and stuff like that, to me, he's something violent. He just plays dumb. It was really interesting, that paragraph, that he was napping during the interrogation. They talk about the fetish, the food fetish of Keegan Klein. And remember that one of the trophies was, or the items that was missing from the crime scene was the sock. So again, that's interesting. They talk about the interrogation of Keegan Klein at the Grissomer Reserve base. The whole Red Jeep story. He was with Nick McClelland. He told McClelland that he and his dad, they drove to the cemetery in Delphi in a Red Jeep, that Tony Klein was supposed to meet someone. Keegan waited patiently in the vehicle while his dad went off for his rendezvous, for his appointment. When Tony Klein came back, his clothes were full of blood, and they came back to Peru. When crossing the bridge of the Wabash River, they slowed down. Keegan threw his phone off the bridge, and the murder weapon also. So again, they repeated the whole Red Jeep story in the book. Scrolling down here. The whole story, we already know that law enforcement, they were not able to confirm the Keegan Klein story, but they searched right away the Wabash River. So it doesn't make sense again. They were not able to corroborate any of the information that Keegan Klein was providing during that confession, but they went to look for the Wabash River during weeks, the day of the confession of Keegan Klein. So I don't buy that at all. So there's something that we don't know yet in that Keegan Klein's confession. And you know my theory, I'm not going to repeat my theory here. Again, they were talking about Angela Sadlowski. They were talking about this. I don't know if you know about this, but when they talk about the information that Richard Allen was looking in internet, one of the things we know that he was looking for the best kidnapping and hostage movies ever made in Netflix. But another thing is he looked at strange pornography featuring elderly women defecating. That's weird shit. If that's true, I'm not saying that because of that he's a killer, but who looks for elderly women defecating? What the fuck is that? Seriously? But anyways, that's in the book. I don't know if that's true or not. I remember the information about Richard Allen looking for kidnapping and hostage movies, but for old women defecating, the fuck is that shit? I don't know if that's true or not, but it's written there in the book. Don't kill the messenger. I just read it. They talk about the lost tip narrative, the Cathy Shank situation. Just they portray Cathy Shank as a superhero. The clerical error, just scrolling down here in my notes, guys, give me a second. They talk about the sheriff election. And again, they're pushing some narratives here. They say that it didn't occur to any of the law enforcement agents, Liggett, Mullin, etc., that the election should factor into their decision making when talking about the crime. Yeah, right. The other, they explain stuff that it doesn't make sense or that is really fishy. You know that when during the second interrogation of Richard Allen, when Jerry Holman talked to him about the Miranda's rights, the video camera was not working. So we don't have that in, there's no video material about that. And the murder sheet are trying to say that Jerry Holman was really pissed with David Vito when David Vito told him, oh, the camera is not working. Like trying to make Jerry Holman like an integer guy because he was pissed about the camera not working at that critical moment when he was supposed to read the Miranda's rights of Richard Allen. And if he was that pissed, why didn't he repeat the Miranda rights after solving the camera problem, the camera situations? They're cleaning the image of law enforcement. These guys are cleaning the image of law enforcement in this book. Okay. One thing that it's also interesting to me, one of the sentences that Jerry Holman said when talking to Richard Allen was, you think we went and stole your fucking round and threw it down by a fucking dead girl's foot? It ain't fucking TV. It is realistic. Why was Jerry Holman telling that to Richard Allen? Again, it's something that you don't say. That it's like when you, that's why people are they have conspiracy theories here, because Jerry Holman was the one talking about that, about planting the bullet. It wasn't Richard Allen. Richard Allen was saying, I don't know, I don't understand. But Jerry Holman told him, do you think that we planted this bullet? It's like, maybe because they did something like that. I'm not saying that was the situation, but it's weird. You know what I mean? It's weird. You don't say that. You don't have the need to say that, for sure. They talk about the fact that Cathy Allen was living right next to Tony Klein in Peru. They were trying to look for some type of connection, and that people from Peru, they gave information to law enforcement, to David Vito, about a relation between the Kleins and the Allens, and Richard Allen and Cathy Allen. But David Vito concluded that there was just coincidences that could happen in a small town living. So to me, there was some information from the residents of Peru, who is a very small town. They gave some information to David Vito about the connection between Richard Allen and the Kleins, but they decided that there was just a coincidence and not there was nothing solid there. Okay, guys, I think I'm gonna stop with my notes here. I'm gonna continue tomorrow, but I'm gonna come back to the chat before. Spooky. Whiteman was the name of Westfall's landlord at the time. Really interesting. Dooley forgot the white man from White Man Drive. Yeah, honest mistake. I guess we are supposed to ignore the fact that Kelsey's hair was in Abby's hand and an unknown female's hair was in the sheet of Libby's body bag. Yeah, this is relevant. It's not, if you are an investigator, you have to investigate that. You just cannot say that it's not relevant, it's bad. Cool dude. The recording is 110% similar to his voice. Says who? Harshman? Really? So digital. So it wasn't suspicious that the video started close to the school, even though they had supposedly already taken photos and texts from the bridge. Yeah, that 70 days of material lost is just unacceptable. I hope so. I think it's relevant. I understand that there's a reasonable explanation for that, but something to explore more. I agree with you. Yeah, censorship is bad. 100% similar. What the fuck is that? That guy's crazy. Seriously? Because Kelsey was messaging him. What do you mean? The day of the murders? Yeah. Kelsey was talking to Anthony Schultz to have information about the disappearance of the girls that day. The interesting thing is that she had the passwords of Libby's accounts in Kelsey's phone. You know what I mean? So Kelsey was able to enter to Snapchat and to Instagram to the accounts of Libby. That's how she was talking to Anthony Schultz as well. That's how I understand that. Or maybe I'm wrong in that aspect. And she was only looking for the contacts of Libby, but if I recall properly, she had the passwords. Correct me. Maybe I'm wrong in that. I have a mixed feeling right now here. Yeah, it was a friend of Libby, the one who talked to Anthony Schultz, and Anthony Schultz or Keegan Klein answered, "Oh my God, what's wrong in our world? I was supposed to meet Libby, but she never showed up," something like that. I'm a little bit tired, guys. I think I'm gonna stop soon. I know there's a lot of comments I didn't read. I'm going to continue tomorrow, part 2. If you want, let me know if it was interesting today. or if you don't want to hear anything else about that book. But there are interesting stuff there, anyways, at least to discuss. So yeah, thank you guys for being here tonight. Appreciate it, and see you tomorrow. Please hit the like, share the video, subscribe if you are not, and stay in touch. See ya. Bye bye.